Welcome to Discover the Difference, a podcast brought to you by C3. My name is Jamie Reed, and I'll be your host alongside my buddy Gabriel Earl. And today, Wayne Partello happened to be in the office, so we asked him to join us as we have five-time Olympian and former team captain of the US Water Polo Team, Jesse Smith. Jesse brings an unbelievable amount of energy to everything he does. And he's not just an Olympian. You'll hear he is well trained. He speaks like a business person and just brings such energy, enthusiasm, insight. He's magnifying in what he does. Everybody that is around him is attracted to whatever it is he's committed to. He brings us amazing insight to his experiences in water polo, life lessons learned, giving back to the community, what he's doing in his post-water polo career, and how to transition into the professional world. So enjoy this podcast with Jesse Smith. It's going to be a good one. All right, Jesse, why don't you just start by telling everybody, I mean, you're a five-time Olympian. Where did water polo start for you?
Wow.
Take us way back.
It's so long ago. I don't know. I mean, no one remembers. It was 20 years ago. I was, that was my first national team experience. So to put that in perspective, I learned how to play water polo much earlier than that. I was a little kid in Coronado at the pool there, the public pool. We jumped in, swimming back and forth, and the coach came by and said, "Hey, you like swimming?" I'm like, "Yeah, kind of, coach." He's like, "Hey, you should try water polo. It's literally the same thing, but way more fun. You have a ball, you're throwing it around with your buddies." And so that was my first experience with water polo back in the day.
How old were you?
Ago. I was probably 10.
Okay.
Did you just get hooked right away, or?
Well, we were at the swim team, this Coronado Navy Swim Association, who was famous in the 60s and 70s. We had this swim coach. It was a Navy SEAL named Mike Troy. And Mike Troy was he's a legit, national team level Olympic swimmer and also Navy SEAL, coached swimming, and he was in Coronado because that's where all the buds are and SEALs. And so my dad and my aunt, we were all military family, and my grandpa was a Marine. The other grandpa was a naval test pilot. So nothing better than going and get your butt kicked, swimming 10,000 yards in a pool. Nothing better for the parents, So that was, I was in there, and there was a foosball table. So me and a bunch of kids would always get kicked out of practice because we got bored swimming, and we played foosball. So I guess it was written that we'd be playing a game. I don't know. That's not a great example.
So you're saying foosball and swimming is the combo is water polo?
I guess what it is having fun. I loved going to practice because if I got kicked out, there was the foosball table. And,
Is this something our kids should be striving to get kicked out of practice?
I hope our kids don't listen to this. I don't know. No, but the reason why that's important is that I think that camaraderie of having people that are your teammates, even though swimming is an awesome sport and some people are really good at it. And, I wasn't great at it, but I loved being in the water, and I love that experience someone else is going through it with me, because trainings were tough. Even when you're a little kid, it's tough to ask someone to swim for 2 hours, And so I think the foosball aspect is it's fun to play water polo because you get that benefit of swimming, but you're with your buddies and you have a ball and you kind of throw it back and forth. And that's why I love water polo. I've been doing it for so long.
Well, where'd it go from that intro fun to now you're becoming good and getting serious about it? How long does that transition take?
Okay, so I guess for me, the hard work and having fun, I guess that is an important thing because for swimming and for being in the water, if you have any, it's almost a good comparison. I remember I'd always go body surfing at the beach at North Island, and in the summer the waves get pretty strong there. Yeah. And if you've ever been in the ocean and you go underwater and everything's quiet, and then you have a wave roll over you, that is a unique experience. And so where water polo is nothing like that. If you like being in the water, you might enjoy playing water polo. For me, it was really difficult. Our trainings were early in the morning, and just by showing up at the pool, we had practices at 4:45 in the morning.
What age did you start going at 4:45?
So that was 8th grade. That was 8th grade.
That's crazy.
And so we'd start there, and practices were short. They were an hour and a half, but then we'd just stay there, and we'd be on the side of the pool, and we'd a couple of us would stay. We'd literally any kind of game you can imagine, just literally kids in the water splashing and throwing a ball around. We would do that. So it was unofficial practice, but we'd stay until 9. And then we'd ride our bikes back up the hill and we try to get free breakfast at this hotel where they had donuts out for the guests. You know, and we are local kids, so we'd stop by and say hello to everyone and see if there's any donuts, you know, for us to be good ambassadors of our town.
I was just gonna say, like, I feel like Coronado is that place. Like, and I can like now when you go there, it feels like where local kids are just rolling to the hotel and hang out. But I can only imagine what it was like back then.
I think San Diego is unique because San Diego, every community here is awesome in different ways. And so, like, my kids were up on the hill next to Pacific Beach last week, and my literally, they were blown away. They, like, walked up a cul-de-sac, and there was, like, a tree house built in there, and they said, this is the best place I've ever been. They love that spot, you know? And that's what's great about kids. They're going to find something about that community, wherever you are, that makes it amazing. So for us in Coronado, I think it is the beach. And I think that water polo goes hand in hand with that. And just by encountering something that's challenging, like, kids need that. Because right now in school, everything's kind of, there's things missing. And so water polo and sports in general, any sport is great for kids. And we can go off about that.
Well, Coronado became like the program, right, in Southern California. What was that? You know, how did that happen?
Yeah, Coronado, we had this amazing thing where you had a lot of really, I think it was really recruiting, you know, like that the coach really tried to recruit all of the kids to try it. Gave everyone an opportunity. We had a middle school program. We had a high school program that had been around for a while, and that the community was committed, you know, to keep that pool open, make it affordable for kids to get in. And it became one of the best programs because we had 3 guys go to the Olympics from this small school, you know, with 1,200 kids. 3 guys went to the Olympics and are the best in the world at this sport. And water polo is a small sport, but globally it's played like literally all around the world, in Europe and in South Africa. Egypt has teams. And, you know, it's something that I think just by following in the footsteps of other kids and being like, it's cool to play a sport because it's really hard. And so hard to start, right? You have to wear the Speedo. You have to get in the water in the morning.
Jamie wears those all the time.
I just walk around in my house in them. They told me I can't wear them to work anymore.
That was a problem.
Yeah, no, we have an HR person now.
Oh. I guess that's true, though. I mean, it is like, it's a hard start, right? But then once you get it, and if you have any kind of feeling of connection with your buddies, it's really rad. And that's like even the same reason why I kept on going to the Olympics, is that you're really part of something bigger than yourself. You know, not only representing the United States, but you're representing your family and your friends, and like people in town like know who I am because I play this like weird sport called water polo. And in San Diego even, they know and they respect, like, oh, you're a water polo player? Like, that's rad. And I think that's really cool. I love that.
Is that like a normal longevity to have, like, to go to the Olympics 5 times? Is that like, does the average person do that?
Softball question.
5 times?
Right. That's a great question.
I mean,
I think
do you like at a certain point do you age out, or?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't retired yet. I'm still dreaming, man. I'm dreaming. And I think that the dream to be part of a team that wins and that does something that some people think's not possible is the most amazing journey. And so for me, yeah, like 5 Olympics, it's not normal. A guy that I started with, he went to 1 Olympics before me. He also went to 5. And that group that we were with, there's another guy named Lane Bobian from town. And that group, we stayed together for like 3 cycles, which is like crazy. It's 12 years of your life. You know, like imagine working a job, you're not getting paid that well, but you're going to do it for 12 years of your life. Right now, I think the average turnover in tech is like 8 to 12 months, maybe 15. And if it's a great job, you're there for 2 years. I mean, 12 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
You're really like serving your country doing that. I mean,
mean,
you're doing something you love, but you're giving it to the country, right?
I guess I never looked at it like that because we always did look at it like when you're abroad, when you're traveling and you're playing, you know, for example, I went to Cairo and played water polo for a couple months. There, you're really representing your country. You are like one of the only Americans that they know. And to be a water polo player is like, okay, you're really like, you're a strange person. Who are you that plays water polo here in Egypt, you know? But I think that representing your country to other people, I think that's something that we're all really aware of. To be an Olympian, we're all really proud to wear our flag and to be part of like what's the best things that the United States has and represent that in the sporting level. And like even being associated with like USA basketball, right? Like that's really cool. And getting to like walk in the same room with those guys is amazing. And then you talk about like USA women's basketball, like they're literally the best in the world. So it's really fun to be part of that club. And I think that it's just here in San Diego, we have so many veterans. And like my dad went to Naval Academy, grandpa's Marine, like I mentioned, other grandpa, you know, died when he had 8 kids. He died testing an airplane, and you know, it's really valuable to be a veteran and to like that sacrifice that those guys make and girls. And so I think on that side, yeah, like it's, I don't know. I don't feel like we're serving our country, but it's definitely an honor to be part of the country.
Absolutely.
That's cool.
You know, you talked about how many kids your grandpa and his brother had. You have 5 from 1 to what's Brooks?
Yeah.
13,
Brooks is
14.
12, yeah.
He's only 12.
Yeah.
He's a huge 12 kid. Oh my
Does
gosh.
that put you like with 5 kids, like the run to the family?
Yeah.
Like
you
only
gotta
5
keep
kids?
going.
Yeah. I mean, we're really. I don't know where to take that.
Trying for 9? Just go for it.
I mean, we have a minivan. The minivan's full, but I think that now that I'm like this last year, I've really been trying to transition into work and business, and I think that all of it is just the kids are motivation. You know, like I joked about it. I'm on this Slack chat with this really cool free cohort called Y Combinator Startup School. And there's 2,000 people on this Slack, and everyone's like, they're ballers, you know. They're like really, like some of them already sold businesses, kind of like you, Jamie. Like these guys are really successful, and like I put on there like, hey, I got 5 kids, and they're like, oh my god, this guy will never succeed. And I was like, man, I got 5 kids, but it's my motivation. I can't quit, and it's just like crickets.
They're like, yeah,
what?
good luck.
Yeah, so, but for my spinning it, I mean, I think that's something important. Even what you mentioned earlier when you're talking about like some of the stuff that you guys do in your company to be successful. And it's like seeing who you're helping. And for me, it's like every time I go home, like seeing the kids, it's like that's why it's good to go work and work hard and make the most of your time, you know? So that's an interesting segue to everything, right? Like sports and everything in business, this is all in it for the same reason, you know, motivation. So I got 5 big motivators.
Well, it's funny when we talk. I just had someone say this to me this week because, you know, Jamie, you guys did it. You stepped away from a major job that you had and started your own company. I did the same thing. You're starting companies, right? Like it's scary. Everybody, they always ask, like, is it scary, right? So let's use that question for you. Like, was it scary, you know, walking away from the water where you had been your entire life to now transitioning into like this business world, which is completely different?
So what's interesting? No, it's probably scarier with 5 kids to spend an extra year and say you're going to go to the Tokyo Olympics, make it through COVID, because all the money we make is through coaching and through like you're in the sport, right? Like a lot of Olympians make their money through like hard work, like coaching. Mm-hmm. The hard work that you get for playing, like you get a stipend, but most of it is like the side work that you do. And you know, for example, one thing that came up was that Home Depot had sponsored the Olympians and gave them all like you can come work as much as you want, but like you can also take off. And they just like, we'll pay you. And they were super generous with their hours. And so athletes like took advantage of that. And Home Depot was so generous and like provided that opportunity. But you're talking about literally like $20 an hour on the floor, you know, and wow. Like that's like a normal job. Like these are Olympians, but they're just trying to make enough money to do the sport that they love. And so, and some of my friends have done that. And we just talked because what happened for me in my journey, which the very short version is that I was like, okay, I spent 6 years before I had my first job offer. And in 2016, I was like, okay, like I'm done. I'm not going to go play in Europe. I'm not going to coach anymore. I got to figure something out. And so I tried virtual coaching platform. And I went to this actually in San Diego. There was a summit that the US Olympians Association like sponsored where they met. They said, okay, everyone apply and we'll take the best 12. I think it was 12. Best 12 and we'll bring them in and we'll teach you guys how to do your business. So I applied. Of course, I didn't get in. I said, wait, guys, I'll pay for my own way. Like I'll come to San Diego and I'll show up. Can I show up? They're like, okay, if you buy your flight, you know, and you travel, and then you can show up. I was like, hey, great. I didn't tell them they didn't know I already lived here. So they said, great, this guy's dedicated. So I was the 13th guy. I show up. I say, hey, I got a virtual coaching platform. This is what it is. I got ripped. Like the VC was like, this is a horrible idea. Let me just tell you one thing, and I can share this. He said, there's 40 other people that applied to this, the exact same thing as you. And then my eyes got open about ideas being less valuable than like the action on them. And you guys are all successful businessmen, so this is like, you know, right? It's all about taking action and stuff. As an athlete, I'm learning that. I'm still learning that. Mm-hmm. So fast forward, 6 years after that, 5 years after that, 2021, I'm heading to the Olympics. I had done a remote internship for a sustainability company. I had like gone to business school, dropped out to go to the 2020 Olympics. Like had to make some commitments, so I couldn't go. And then I did a much shorter, awesome executive program through Tough Next Step at Dartmouth, which was 40 Olympians 80 veterans, and it was awesome.
Oh, wow.
It was very short, 3 months. Had a baby like right at the end of it, so I was like taking the last classes like in the hospital, and then like 3 days later I had to leave for a national team trip. Did the Tokyo Olympics, like the whole thing, but on the way to one of the Hawaii right before the games, we went to Hawaii to get like acclimated for time. And I remember I was like, I got to pay this $10 to sign on the Wi-Fi to see what's going on, you know. And that was like, I never do that. I was like, okay, I got to pay the $10 to sign on. I'm like, whoa, we got to make this job offer, like email back and forth. I had 2 offers, signed one on the plane. Like, I agree electronic signature, most exciting thing in my life, right? Outside of sports completely. And then
you forget the 5 kids.
Yeah, 5 kids.
yeah, I was fired up.
Hopefully Brittany
That's
doesn't
a very
listen
long
to this.
version.
Yeah. We're gonna need to edit that.
Cut that for his wife, please.
No, it's all good. I mean, because that's the thing. Like,
Right.
I think why is this so exciting? When you talk about being scared, like, so now I have 2 businesses that made money in the last couple of months, and one of them we're getting paid regularly, and there's 3 people on the team, and it's another Olympian, and then a third. Like, my friend Zach Garrett, he was an Olympic archer, so he's a software engineer. I convinced him to come work with me. We didn't know exactly what we were going to work on, and the other gentleman, Logan, dude, super smart guy. Convinced him to kind of work with us on the side, and now he's getting more and more involved. But like getting paid in something that literally went from nothing, like it only formed because I was hustling and like connected A and B. And we're not making a lot of money, but man, that's not scary. That's awesome. So I'm really excited about that. I didn't tell you that yet, but I'm fired up.
That's cool.
What do you drink a lot of coffee, or where does your energy come from? Like, I've actually been wanting to ask you that for a while. Is this just natural, or where do you get it?
You know, I think that I put like our first Olympic training cycle was really hard. Like, water polo is a tough sport, but the first Olympic training cycle, which was from 2001 to 2004, was insane. We had the best coach in the world in our sport, this guy named Ratko Rudic, who has 3 gold medals with different teams. Also as a player, he's from Yugoslavia.
Wow.
And he basically said, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select people based on character and put them through the ringer. It's kind of like Navy SEALs. There was no cutting. It was only like people would self-select out. Training was so hard, but I was a young guy, and I was like, oh, this is normal. You know, I had no idea that this was like the most insane thing ever that happened. And so making it through that, and I was the youngest guy on the Olympic team in 2004, and like after that, like everything's in perspective, you know? And so I have a lot of energy because we had like insane trainings. And then you learn about your health, you learn about your diet, you learn about what helps, you know? And it's funny because even now, like I was learning some things from you, Jamie, about the cold bath and all that stuff. And so for me, like I'm trying to learn from people that are successful in business, like, hey, what works for you and what do I need to learn as an athlete? And so like I've learned that through sports, like that's what you do, right? You're not like status quo. It's like, hey, how can I get better? And so approaching it like that, when I talk to, sports coaches, life coaches, I had business coaches, mental coaches, you know, then you have like technical coaches for like the thing. And like that type of thing is just, I don't know, it's exciting. So I think that right now, like why I have so much energy is because everything's like new and like learning about it. And even to say it so, you know, it's just the truth. It's just, I'm excited to even be in the room with you guys.
So you mentioned you've had all these great coaches along
Yeah.
the way, but obviously to perform at the level that you're at, it takes a huge work ethic. Where did that come from? Is that something you feel like you were born with? You learned it from, you know, growing up? You had a coach that taught you? Where's that come from?
That's actually a good question because I don't know. And I think, you know, talking through it now, you know, I mentioned my grandpa moved here from Virginia, you know, and got deployed for like 5 years.
Wow.
You know, and he had 6 kids. My grandma had 6 kids. It's crazy to think of the dedication that a lot of people go through in the armed services. And so I think growing up with that, like, I just think that it's something you're shown by your family and your parents and like hard work, you know, and if you're lucky, you get opportunities that you can apply that, you know, and like I probably have failed so many times that now the idea of entrepreneurship, like, it's kind of like that. Yeah, you're going to fail, you know, and it's not scary because that's going to happen.
Right.
But let's learn from it. And that's the tough part for me. That's scary. Like, how do I learn from this? And so the energy and all the stuff, the work ethic, I think you just set the bar high and then you try not to give up. And I don't know, there's actually a crazy story because at the Olympics, I was going through some tough stuff this last Olympics in Tokyo. And I reached out to a dude I met at the YMCA here in Mission Valley, Bill Walton. You know, I said, who is this guy? He's tall and he's I ran. I was in the gym.
Amazing.
They have an amazing gym here at the YMCA.
Yeah.
And there was this gentleman. He's kind of older, pretty tall. He is holding like a 20-pound med ball, and he was throwing at this like 18-year-old kid in a wheelchair. And they were laughing. They were stoked. And I was like, "Hey, I don't know who you guys are, but I should know you guys. I'm trying to learn. I just moved back to San Diego. I'm trying to figure it out." He said, "Oh, I'm Bill Walton." I'm like, "Oh, I heard that name before. Okay, that makes sense why everyone's so stoked on you. What are you guys doing?" He's like, "Oh, this young kid is, he's in a car accident. I'm part of this organization called Challenge Athletes Foundation. And there's a lot of Paralympians. Like, so you're an Olympian. This is awesome." And it was like, and then I was like, "Can you help me?" He's like, "Sure. What do you need?" And he literally I got to go to this entrepreneurs organization event where I wasn't qualified to go at all, but I got to be his guest. I listened to him speak in that type of thing. So short version, he said, "Hey, the one thing about what you'll encounter, stick with the people that when they're on the top of the mountain, they're willing to help other people up. They're with you. It's like win-win for everyone. And those are the guys and girls that you want to be associated with."
Yeah.
So I sent him an email during Olympics, said, "Man, I'm going through some stuff. You got any advice?" Because he's gone through the real stuff of not being able to move, back surgeries, feet broken,
Crazy.
playing basketball, losing all of his money and with a deal with a guy. It's in all of the public information in his books, which I read before I talked to him. And what he sent me was a speech about climbing the mountain. And what I took away, which is really relevant to this conversation about how do you have hard work ethic, is he gave this speech that he shared written form to me that it's like falling off the mountain and you're in the free fall is one thing. Being on the mountain and being on the ground or falling onto the ground, like you're on your back on the mountain, you got to get up. That's good because you know what you need to do. I fell over, I failed, but I have a direction. But when you don't have a mountain to climb, you're in free fall, and that's scary.
Yeah.
Because the challenge actually is the hard work. That's awesome. And so I probably didn't describe that as well as him because he's really good at that stuff. You've got Bob Dylan flying in there, Jimi Hendrix. You can imagine the sound right now.
It's unbelievable.
And that's the kind of person I'd like to be. And as far as circling this all back to the kids, when you're looking for coaches and you're looking for a sport to play for your kids, it's all about believing 100% in who that person that's coaching them is and being able to trust them and not look at what they're doing day to day or what they're doing technically in the sport. It doesn't matter. It's about someone that's going to be climb that mountain. And so I hope with the Coronado Aquatics Club and with all the sports that are in San Diego that kids have that opportunity.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. I came downstairs. Arlene's like, "You're wearing red pants and a blue shirt." I'm like, "Yeah, Jesse always wears red, white, and blue. So I'm going to wear my red, white, and blue." And then you come in your Coronado Aquatics.
Yeah.
Of course, I know that you're taking on the executive director position there, but why don't you talk a little bit about what that means and getting involved to bring excellence back to the water polo club there?
So, I got this logo on, which is this green circle, the yellow ball. And, it just says Coronado Water Polo. But one thing we were talking about is when you have people that are successful, is it just, they won a game. They played a game and they won, right? The score, one team has 9 points, the other team has 8. In any sport, I don't think that that's really what success is. And I think a lot of coaches, what you look for is long-term, that those players really benefiting from being there in the sport. And it's tough to do that. It's really tough to do that. But someone asked me about Coronado Water Polo, "Hey, why are everyone so successful? You guys won so many games." And I said, I don't think it was the games. What I think makes it a successful sport is that all these guys and girls came back and look what they're doing in business. Look how they represent their families. And they went on to colleges and they were team captains at all these different schools, prestigious universities like Princeton and the Naval Academy and UOP and Pepperdine and UCLA and UC Davis and Stanford and USC. It's a pretty prestigious group of people.
I've heard of some of those.
And that's what's cool about water polo is that that's where you go when you're good at the sport. And so in the community where it's all Navy that are Navy SEALs, there's admirals, there's captains. I mean, there's really qualified, successful people. And I think that traditionally, why I'm representing Coronado is this logo, it means something to the people because it's they built that. And, I just got really lucky. I was in the middle. And so it was expected to be successful. It was expected to win. And, it was expected to lose, but to try to be the best. And I think that sports go up and down with communities and cycles, just like anything, right? And so now it's just an opportunity. It's like, hey, this is a great legacy of people, and let's build it. Maybe let's expand the opportunity for more people to be involved, because water polo is a great sport for all people. Let's get more chances. And so we're looking at like South Bay, and I know that like up in Santee, there's been like huge development. One of my teammates named Alex Bowen, he went to Olympics in 2016 and 2020 with me. His dad coaches up there at Santana. And also like Imperial Beach is building a whole new pool down there. Like pools get used. Even like Francis Parker's been talking about building a pool for a while. They're going to stick it on top of their parking lot. Like pools get used to teach kids how to swim. And then if they're lucky, they have some type of team sport on top of that. I think that answers your question. Sorry, I don't know. I'm rambling on. We're going to narrow it in. But I'm just stoked. I don't know.
No, I think it's important to take the Bill Walton story that you shared about having the people when you're on top reaching back down and pulling those up. I think you see that in business all the time, right? You see the people that people say it all the time. Oh, people do business with the people they want to do business with. Like you want to spend time, like we get to do business together. It's like part of favorite parts of my day when we have to get on a call. It's like, it's not work, right? It's like, we're solving real problems. There's no ego involved. We're trying to solve, like, it's not, oh, we're solving this because Jamie created a fire over here. It's like, no, there's a fire. We need to put it out. It wasn't fake. It's real. And you're going down. And one of the things these guys have done an incredible job with is building this environment here to bring more people in to be part of what they're building. And I know with this new project for you, it's about going down a generation and pulling that up. That's pretty special.
Yeah, how do you infuse that culture, that previous culture that you had, you growing up?
That's a great question about culture, because one of the first things that I did this morning is I was like, oh man, I'm going to talk with the CMO of Ballast Point, Wayne. Let me check his LinkedIn profile. Like, let me check this guy out. And the first thing he's talking about is culture. You know, it's not a foosball table. It's the way you treat each other and common aspirations. And Wayne can describe that in better ways. But that's like, it's like, you know, how do you guys build that in your environment here? Like, how did you build that here?
Well, you know what's funny is when that kind of question comes up, I think back to Jonathan and Craig from Coastal Payroll. They really summarize it well, that it's a pulse. You can feel it when you walk into an organization. It like lives and breathes. And if you don't nurture it and water it, it goes down. And if you do nurture it, it comes back up. It's like it's alive in people, not in objects. Gabe always says our office represents our culture. It's not our culture. It's a place to nourish it, but human beings are what create culture through our relationships, Yeah,
and it's a big, for me at least, in working, on the media side and then going on the professional sports side, you can see it in locker rooms, you can see it in club, but you can see it in the office. You can see it when you walk around here. It is that mountaintop. It is a leader pointing to the top of that mountain and saying, we're going to climb this mountain and we're going to do this together. It's a team, right? If you can build that energy around this mission that we're all going on together, right, and drive towards it, that's a true leader, right? Anybody can sit in their office and bark commands. You're not leading. You're just, demanding what you want. You're commanding, right? Which is okay, but who want intelligent, really smart people do not want to be part of that. You're going to lose them. They're going to leave, or they're just going to sit over there. I had someone the other day say this to me. Why would I try to come up with more ideas? Every time I send my ideas to my boss, he shoots them down and gives me his ideas. So why would I put 100% of effort into coming up with all this stuff? Because every time I send it in, he just sends back his ideas. So I'm going to put down some BS ideas. He's going to send back his ideas anyway. I saved a bunch of time and I can move on, right? That's a human instinct. Like you keep running into the wall. Eventually, hopefully you learn, don't run into the wall, And so with culture, it's that. If you nurture them and water those seeds. And I mean, I'm sure you played for coaches that got the best out of you. You probably played for coaches that you were like, what am I doing?
I mean, I agree with what you're saying, and it reminds me, it's so funny because that's one of the things that I'm passionate about, is like people and teams. And that's one of the, I guess, coming out of 20 years in sports, it's like, that might be the most valuable lesson, is that stuff. And it's hard to put into words, but it's such a small world. And if you follow these dots, everything connects. It's so interesting and like that. Our sports psych for the US Olympic team for water polo is this guy named Brian Alexander. He's up in La Jolla, he works with UCSD and with our USA team. And what's crazy is this is the connection that's mind-blowing to me, is I'm on LinkedIn looking for LinkedIn Learning, because as a USA athlete, we get free LinkedIn Learning. It's one of the cool, like, it's not,
awesome.
It makes a difference. $50, a month, it makes a difference. You get free that, so that you have an opportunity if you're interested in getting it. So I'm looking at leadership. This guy, Ken Blanchard, turn your pyramid of hierarchy of like an organization upside down, the CEO leaders on the bottom, holding everyone else up, like serving the organization. Because it's hard to understand. You all hear that, like, service leadership. What does that
100%.
mean?
Yeah.
We even talked about in our mission of Coronado Aquatics Club, like, what does it mean for the sports? It's like, hey, you serve the kids. Everyone there on board to serve the kids. It's not about that parent or that coach or that director. It's about the kids. So for what I've learned with Ken Blanchard, which, guess what? Brian Alexander worked for Ken in the organization of consulting businesses, and Ken's like, really high level. Have you guys met him? Or you might have. I don't know.
I've never met him.
So older gentleman, but like knows this thing. He's got like 100 books, And so that's like the full circle. So I'm like, hey, asking Brian while I'm still playing as an athlete, like, hey, what's your advice? The framework that I'm using here, which is like the full circle of military, is OODA. OODA is one of the favorite things I learned from Brian. It's observe, orientate, decide, act. Right? It was taught by the Air Force jet pilots. They're doing dogfights in the air. The person that observes, orientates, decides, acts, even if it's maybe not the best decision, the first person wins. So that's for sports. We're learning that from the military, applying it to sports, and then guess what? That's going into business. And I'm sure you guys can build on that. Like,
100%.
I don't know yet. I'm still working on it.
I love that.
No, that's great.
It's a number one thing that we have to break our salespeople. They go in thinking I'm selling a product. We're like, you're here to learn, not sell. Until you learn everything about the individual you're meeting with and how you can serve them, there's nothing to sell. And I've never heard of that acronym before. I'm going to look that up.
But it's back to that, it's listening, right? Is the sales, everybody thinks it's about talking, right? It's talk. I talk a lot, right? But I do, right? I do, but I'm also listening the whole time. Like, I'm not just like, so one of like my favorite like things that ever happened in my life is I went to the police academy when I was 19 years old, and I never realized it in the process, but in some self-evaluation over the last few years, realized that the situational awareness you learn when you're becoming a police officer is like you're watching everybody and everything really comes into play when you're in sales, right? And you're watching the room and you're seeing, is this guy actually listening to me across the table? Then when you become a leader, you're like, is my team, back to watching the plants, are they falling or are they building, right? You can start to be situationally aware to go, okay, what am I doing? That comes in when you're coaching, right? Like looking at the kids, does this kid need to be picked up? Do I need to get him? Like we had these 2 high school kids coach our flag football team last year. They coached all the kids. It was the greatest thing. Sweet heart of kids. They noticed, one kid hadn't got his touchdown yet. And let me tell you, man, they got that kid the ball on the 1 yard line every time until he got one in, because everybody else had gotten theirs and you could kind of see him, right? He was kind of loafing a little bit because he wasn't feeling it. And all of a sudden they looked, they saw it. These were 16, 17-year-old kids, but they were situationally aware to go, that kid needed a little bit of extra. And I love what you said. It's not about the parents, right? It's not about, like, we talk about it when we're talking about entertaining like stadiums and building entertainment strategies. It's not about the sponsor. It's not about the players. It's about the fans. If you can actually go to work every day and like create an environment where the people you're trying to serve is number one, you'll win. There's a guy. Have you guys seen Jesse Cole? He's the Savannah Bananas.
Gosh, I have. Yes, yellow. He's in yellow.
Yeah, the guy in the yellow tux. So if you haven't, exactly. If you haven't, check him out. His LinkedIn stuff is incredible because he talks about. So they're literally building like the Harlem Globetrotters of baseball. I mean, it is entertaining. It's fun, but he's just like, we're there to entertain our fans. That's it. Number one. We're going to put our fans first, and they do. And like, I think that's a big part that's missing in professional sports right now is people, the athletes have gotten so high on the mountaintop that and I understand it. The footing for them to stay there is so loose that they have to just they believe they only solely have to focus on staying on top of that mountain, that the part that's missing is actually pulling in the fans to be part of it again.
Because I know for the Olympics, like that's a problem we have. It's like the Olympics are only every 4 years. Whether that's Olympic, luge, that's every 4 years, or if it's Olympic Summer Games every 4 years. So like they split the summer and winter, so it's every 2. But if whatever sport you're following, it's every 4 years. For that athlete, the event's every 4 years. So how can you like capture any market value when it's like
It's tough.
little peak, and then it's like maybe you're one of the people that they promote like crazy. Most athletes that are in the Olympic cycles aren't those athletes, and so we're looking for other ways to connect with the fans. That's like a huge thing. I'm so excited for the Olympics coming in LA. And it's 6 years.
Yeah. Let's transition on that actually, because you're doing some work helping Olympians transition, right? And it reminds me of when we had Hardwick in, and he talked about it on the podcast where he didn't think the transition from pro sports to just a normal life or finding a professional identity would be a tough transition. Because he didn't grow up playing football. He walked on in college, and then so it was less identity. But then when he went to make the transition, he did find that it was emotionally more taxing than he thought it was going to be. So what is it that you're doing with Olympic athletes to help them in that space?
Okay, this is really interesting. There's a lot of different directions, and I'm aware of time, so I know that this, for me, like this is really interesting because of my story, right? And so what I started trying to do recruiting, help Olympians get jobs. I said this was a great way. Everything I've learned and like getting that first job is amazing, to step outside of your sport, which for me was like the 6-year journey. I started business school, did an executive program, started my own business that didn't work. Then I was like, okay, let's figure it out, work for someone else. Then I'm like, wait, hold on, I can do this. Started a recruiting company. Then I learned very quickly after interviewing about 42 Olympians didn't want jobs. They want to play their sport more and make money on the side. It's so obvious, right? And so also with recruiting, you're serving the company. And so to be honest, the company doesn't really care if there's an Olympian there or not. They just want someone that can do the job and like stay there for a while. So now another Olympian and I, we got an opportunity to start a software company and serve a freight logistics startup. So we hired a third person and we work with them. This company's called E-Cubed. It's basically just, taking a truck and then building modules so that it's somehow attacking this problem of like these battery weights and hot and cold storage and going from A to B, and like, wow, like 40% of these trucks are empty. So it's a long play, and we've been working about 6 months on it. And it's like, how do we solve this so like a truck driver is not sitting outside one of these distributions and it's like sitting there for 10 hours? Like it's insane, because that person, just like an Olympic athlete, like the person's super vital. You hear all those things. We heard a podcast from the Freight Lab from MIT. This guy, David Corral, I think is his name. He's like literally interviewing drivers and sharing like how horrible it is to be gone from your family for like a month. And then you're stuck because for some reason, like they don't really care about the queue at the spot you're at, and like, it's really interesting. That's your industry. I don't know anything about it, but what we're attacking is like in my little role, I'm a project manager with another 2, and we work and try to serve this company that has a bigger mission. And so getting that role and like getting paid to do that outside of sports completely, but then it's all about like team, and it's all about playing on a mission, like this whole vision of like sustainability, and will diesel convert to electrons is like the bet for us. And California, there's a lot of stuff going on there that you guys probably know about, that it's super fascinating, and I get to be a teammate on that. So it's kind of, I haven't retired officially, but yeah, I don't know. That's like a very long answer. I don't know if I hit it or not.
It's kind of funny because I think he brings the same energy to talking about software and trucking as he does Olympians, but they don't seem to weigh up the same.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. I read this book called The Box, and it's literally, have you guys read that?
No.
Okay, it's literally just about shipping containers. Like you see those things everywhere, right? Yep. Like 50,000 of those things in a port of Long Beach, whatever it is. And it's literally like in 1950, they just had a ship, they throw things in the middle. So you had to go to a port, and this is interesting for me because my dad was in the Navy, so it's like you go to port time is like, hey, we need that box on the bottom. We got to unload everything. And so in 1950, up to that point, that's how it was done. And then one gentleman's like, hey, wait, I don't want everyone rifling through my stuff. I'm going to put a box on that ship and put all the stuff that's going to New York in that box. And that slowly transformed the whole world, and that's what we're trying to do with trucking. So for the software engineers, it makes complete sense. It's like everything now is like containerization and like building what other people do. And so they're like stoked on the idea. And through that passion, I'm like, this is a good idea. Like, I want to work here. I don't want to find another Olympian to work. I want to be the guy, because it's a big bet and it's a great group of people. But
is that how you got there? You
were
hired to find somebody else?
Yeah. My friend, this guy Chad Caldwell, his family has a gas station on the 5, and he worked in some sustainability stuff. And he was like, what are we going to do with this gas station as it converts? He thinks that we have to go to electric. I know there's some other things out there, algae and all stuff, but we got to go some way to save the world, basically. And however you believe that in different ways, the timeline on that, whatever it is, over time something's going to happen. And so he reached out to me and said, hey, I saw you're trying to help Olympians get jobs. I got to hire some people. I love to hire an Olympian. And I said, okay, great. I'll search around. And he had some, it's hard to find an Olympian that's a software engineer that's looking for work. Most software engineers have jobs, yeah. But I happen to have already found one that was doing this. We were trying to do a CRM or something, something cool and sexy in software, because that's what you want to be, right? Scalable, walls to entry, easy to reproduce, sell it to your mom. I don't know, but you guys know that. So I said, okay, great. I found someone. You can't have him though. He's mine. And Chad's like, no, I want that guy. And then we did a trial project. We helped him with some patent work. And then it's like, whoa, actually I want to be on board too. I don't know what my role is. I'm just like the people
You're defining
guy.
it as you go.
Yeah. They're like, what do you do here? I'm like,
Like,
is there any problem?
I'm trying to figure that out, actually.
But that's the thing. I don't know. But it's day to day. It changes and week to week. But yeah, I'm fired up about it. Kind of long answer. Sorry.
So have you?
Long answers are great.
Did you pivot away from the recruiting now, or?
So I spent 2 months. I interviewed for the first month. I was like, I'm just going to interview athletes and find out how they changed jobs. Like maybe my story is different, And the second month, I got connected to a lot of HR. Apparently, if you're a 5-time Olympian and you reach out on LinkedIn, most people do take your request and they'll even talk to you. It's crazy. I talked to some ballers. That's awesome. Literally, I didn't sell them anything. I just said, hey, I'm trying to learn about this. This is my passion. This is my story. And I got some really cool calls, and I learned that I wasn't going to be able to be successful as a recruiter with my vision. And so, yeah, I pivoted away, and then I started an events company. Well, my friend has an events company, and I convinced him to partner with me, and instead would try to do not keynote speeches, but kind of like what this is, where it's you just talk and share something authentic, and then the Olympian gets a little bit of money. The people at these retreats benefit from it, and we're kind of piloting that this summer. We've done 3. There's 5 more on the books that we're kind of trying to do, and it's I think helping athletes is easy for me because I've been doing it a long time, and most of them haven't gone through the same obstacles I have. I mean, every athlete has a cool story. They just like me, I'm still learning it, and they're learning it. So if you can help each other, and I've done a couple of speeches, and someone generously paid me pretty well for them, and I was just I loved getting paid for that speech. That was my best weekend of the whole year. It's that was a lot of money, and I just loved it. So if I can try and help another athlete get that, and then go back to their sport, and it makes a huge difference in their lives, and it made a big difference.
You know what you have
life.
going for you?
I don't know.
You're the oldest Olympian, so they all look up to you. So it's easy marketing.
Oh my gosh. I think that Olympians in general, it's crazy because we're all the same. 100%. I don't know if all athletes are the same, but it's what are your skills? We talked earlier, what do you have as a skill if you're good at baseball for 20 years, good at water polo, running around in a Speedo? I mean, you're really just good at persevering and learning how to get good at one thing. So if you can somehow apply that to something else, which then the world's your oyster. I talked to a dude that I'm not going to say who he was, but he's super smart guy. He's helping us with some stuff. And he said, oh, hey, I had to make a website. So I spent 160 hours learning everything about React and about Java and loading it up. And that's cool. He knew I spent X number of hours and now I can do that very easily. And it's if you think just because you're smart and you're good at one thing that you're not gonna have to spend the time. That's what I took away is that guy dedicated time to learn that, even though he's super smart, can probably build a whole thing on C+. That's different than what he needed to do. And someone might be oh, I don't want to do that. It's mundane, or it's not for me. And I think that for athletes, it's surprising is that actually they're willing to put the work in if they're motivated. And that's kind of
So is that the secret part of it? Is
Yeah.
Getting, because a lot of times they're, how to apply that perseverance and that feeling of I can push through and apply it to something else besides what their passion is from, their sport.
Well, the motivations, though.
Well, that's a good question for you two, right? How do you guys keep people at this company? That's employers. How do you
lock the door?
Yeah. We don't let them out. Actually, nobody is here today.
Friday in August.
I think we create freedom. You'll hear people and themes. You be you. We don't recruit people in and say you're gonna fit our profile, our way. We recruit people to be uniquely themselves, and then give them purpose that aligns with what we do as an organization. And I think if they can align and have purpose
And empowered.
Big
you know,
one.
those
They
things.
feel ownership in what they're doing.
Well, how do you empower them? I like. Can you unpack that for me? Like, what does that mean?
Well, like Mia's sitting over here, you know, and it's like, you know, Mia came from San Diego State. She knows nothing about the job, or she didn't, about the job she's doing. I mean, you don't whack people. You know, it's like you celebrate failure, like what you were saying, you know, like falling down on the mountain.
Yeah.
If you go around whacking everyone, then they're not going to feel empowered.
Yeah.
But when people make mistakes, you sit down with them and you interact and help them learn in a way that's not, you know, chastising them over what they did, then they can grow.
Yeah, when people feel like mistakes are an opportunity and not a punishment, then they feel empowered.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to be afraid to make decisions, not afraid to grow, not afraid to take ownership. And when you have that, then you know everybody rises up.
And then when you go, on the other side of that coin is if everybody's afraid to make a mistake, your business moves so slowly because nobody's actually acting because they're waiting on Jamie to say it's okay to act. Can I put my left foot in front of my right? I don't know because Jamie hasn't said I can yet. Versus you did, it probably wasn't the best decision. Let's talk about why you made the decision, not the decision itself. Let's think about the thought process that got you there and let's back it up and go, okay, here's how I would have gone through that and here's how the results would have been a little bit different for you. And then they understand, and then next time they apply those lessons, right? And then where people get in, you know, where you go, well, then nobody would ever get in trouble, right? Well, no, because when we get, you know, then you get the lesson, and then if you don't apply it over time, and the mistake keeps happening, that's a problem, right? But they were empowered to make the decision. Like I just had someone the other day. We empowered them to finally make a decision. Long-time employee of a company. I was brought in to help fix a couple problems. Said, okay, you're now in charge. This is your world. You make the decisions. And then a week later, they make the same wrong decision. And it was like, oh, yeah, you're right. It's just how we've always done it. I was, no. Now it's on you. You made that decision. I didn't make that decision. Jamie didn't make that. Gabe, you know what I mean? This was your decision. Now we got to learn. You can't. You own it. With that empowerment, also comes on the other side is the accountability towards you're now empowered to make that decision, but you're also accountable for the results of that decision. And I'm not going to beat you down because you got it wrong. We're going to learn from it. We're going to get better from it. And I think like with all of us, I think the thing that I love hearing your story is the taking the lessons from sports can be applied. Every CEO, you get into any sales meeting, the sales manager is using sports analogies. They're all trying to use lessons from sports. The people like, you know, with you, and the reason why, you know, hearing from an Olympian is so cool because those lessons of perseverance, those lessons of climbing that mountain, salespeople go through it every day. Every day they're getting told no. Every day they
100
fail.
times a day.
No doubt. You're failing constantly.
Also, I love this story where you like put the call into Bill Walton and said, "Hey, I need help."
Yeah,
like
a
finding
vulnerable moment.
finding mentors and
Isn't that
like,
funny?
That's such a cool story.
I think that's super interesting because like looking back, like asking for help is something that I would like. There was a moment it's like, oh wait, no, like I need to ask people for help and like figure this out because I'm not gonna be able to do it on my own. And it's so obvious, like especially for this group, like successful people, like that's obvious. But I don't know if younger teammates and younger athletes like get that, and I don't know how you tell them it because it's like kind of you can't just make them want that, you know. It's super interesting.
The biggest thing you can do is be there for them, right? And sort of see
well,
those
you can display it
opportunities.
yourself
right.
too. You
I
know,
guess
like
that's true,
us being vulnerable leaders and explaining that we reach out for help. We call him and we call other peers that, you know, counsel us. We take counsel from all kinds of places. So I think displaying that kind of vulnerability in front of people and they know, oh, okay. It's okay.
I think
Jessica Smith is reaching out for help.
That sounds real because I think that being like one thing we did with our team, which I think was really interesting, I was like as a team captain, I was team captain for the last Olympics, is like we have this mantra, I guess. It's like, what's the team? Like we talk about team values and everything. And Olympics are crazy because you get cut. Your teammates, like you're getting cut. So like you're competing against someone, even though you're united on the same team, and it does compare to like sales where it's like one guy's gonna get the money, and you can like split the commissions. But for an Olympic team, there's no splitting it up. Like that person is out,
you make
and
it or
the
you
other
don't.
one is in. They're an Olympian. They're on the team. They're getting the medal, and the 14th player is not, even though they put in years and years of their life.
That's crazy.
Very intense. And so we switched this thing, and I didn't come up with this, but I championed it. It's like help the team instead of make the team is like the driving force. And that was in my mind like so many times, but it's tough because you're basically, a lot of the team sports, the coach just makes the decision. So like you've seen in the news in soccer sometimes where there's like, someone will say like, hey, I should be the player here or that. And like the coach shows someone else. And it's just like, it's a big controversy, but in the end, that's who's going. So for me as a leader, I think that being able to say like, yeah, I've been here like 3 times and like I won an Olympic medal, but I messed up in this and I think that we can do better. Does anyone, like everyone agree that we're going to do this? And then, hey, we all agreed we're going to do this, but like you didn't and I didn't, I'm sorry, let's try again. It didn't work exactly like that, but that concept. And then other times like having to be like, kind of pretend like everything that's going on and you're like showing that confidence leading in that way. Something I've seen some of the people I've worked with like that they are internally like so stressed. And maybe at the Olympics, like same thing, right? For an athlete or going into the final or playing World Series, it's like, yeah, but then you have to be like, I got this, we're going to win no matter what kind of thing. And like, don't even think about failure. Yep. So this was a great conversation.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed being here with you guys.
I feel like, we could probably talk all day and start drinking beer, which Brittany told me.
Let's do that. Let's do that.
Let's, Gabe, you want to kick us over? We're going to end with some rapid fire. I didn't warn you on this.
This one's they're printing a new bill. It's a $15 bill.
Yeah, $1 million bill. You mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, we'll do a $1 million bill.
Okay.
Whose face would you put on there?
Gosh, that's obvious. Obama.
What's something new going on in your life right now?
$1 million bill's coming out. That's
That's not inflationary here.
Oh my gosh, that'd be horrible. No, what's new in my life is, I'm super excited. We're meeting for the first time in person, a remote team of 5. Anton's flying from Germany. We're meeting in Santa Barbara September 2nd and 3rd. I'm so excited.
Awesome.
That's new.
Yeah, first impressions are so important. What do you notice first about people when you meet them?
That's a great question. I don't know. What do I notice? If they're using their phone while they talk with you.
This question's going to kind of come out of left field here, Mia. But what's the best fashion advice you've ever received?
Don't wear socks with your sandals. I personally love it. But
Don't wear socks.
Don't wear
at all.
socks. Jamie never wears
I have
socks.
them on right now.
dude, rip me. Johnny, rip. Yeah. I don't know. That's good.
All right.
That's good advice.
So you're very animated. You had to be a Disney character. Which one would it be?
Smee from Pirates.
All right.
Ooh, all right.
Like it.
All right.
That's it. Thanks, guys. That was awesome. You got more? Okay, hold on. I'm going to get mine ready for you guys. Hold on.
All right. You're definitely a guy full of gratitude.
Yeah.
What are you most grateful for?
I'm so grateful for my family's health and for my parents and everyone that's healthy in my life. I think that health is the most important thing you have in family. It's pretty grateful for that. That's a heavy thing. Right?
Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. So last 2 questions. Show's called Discover the Difference.
Yeah.
And Gabe, why don't you kick off the first question on discovery?
All right. This is a reflective one. When you look back and reflect on your life and you have a chance to talk to your younger self, what would you say to him?
Well, I was driving this 2001 white Sienna to Pioneer Town for one of my friend's birthdays this weekend. I got a flat tire. There's no air conditioning. It's pretty brutal. So today I drove the 2008 minivan. I got here okay. Might be nice to have a newer car.
I like it.
We need to get a local dealership.
Yeah, we gotta
to front
find
you
someone
a
to help you
car.
out here.
We're gonna have to tag all
I'm
the
in
local
Toyota.
dealerships. Tune in Toyota. Okay, I was watching a movie the other day, and they were asking the guy the secret sauce of his French toast, to which he answered it was eggnog. So what's the secret sauce, the one ingredient that is the key to your success?
Unofficially, my grandma she came from the Appalachian Mountains in Pennsylvania. She was a really hardworking woman, and she'd always send me rum cakes when I was in college, which I obviously gave to the coach, because every once in a while, my grandpa, being an older gentleman that was a Marine, pour a lot of rum in those things. So I'm not saying that's the secret sauce, but she made a great rum cake.
Rum's the secret sauce of rum cake. I love that. You always get to plug your grandma in there somewhere too.
doubt.
So, all right, man. Well, thanks for coming on the show. What's next for you?
Well, I'm about to ask Wayne 5 rapid fire questions because he's the CMO. I mean, okay, really quick, Wayne,
Okay.
favorite beer right now? Don't lie.
Ballast Points Speedboat.
Okay, favorite baseball player? Don't lie.
Manny Machado.
Okay, where does he live?
Coronado.
Okay,
Did you guys rehearse that?
favorite beach in San Diego?
Ooh. Carlsbad.
Hawaiian or Singapore noodles?
No noodles.
Okay, no noodles at all.
Not really.
Okay, favorite item at a Mexican food restaurant that you order?
Oh, carne asada.
Okay, where's the best carne asada in San Diego?
Jeez, probably. Well, I'm a big Lolitas guy because when I worked at the ballpark, I would walk across the street and just quietly sit there in the corner with my headphones on, and I would get carne asada. That was my go-to. So I'd have to say that was my favorite because I got to go all the time.
Okay, last question, then I'll let you guys all
Okay.
go. I just want to know what do you wish you could tell young athletes that would benefit them if they could actually believe that?
Is to never forget the little kid that was just playing the game.
Powerful.
I'm gonna think about that. That's good.
All right, brother.
My wife
Well,
says I'm childish, but now I'm like, oh, kid,
But
That
no, like
was
even,
very
but
mature.
no,
Yeah,
but like
yeah.
even no matter how big the game gets,
Yeah.
you're just playing a game,
Yeah.
right? And I saw just real quick. I don't know if you guys saw this, and you don't have to put this in the pod. Maybe you will, but I don't know if you saw it from the Hard Knocks. The coach of the Detroit Lions, like he's awesome. Like Dan Campbell, he was at the Dolphins when I was there. He was a coordinator, and this little kid was just so excited, and he just said, "Hey, can you tell this player that I said hi?" And you just see Dan write something on his hand in a Sharpie. He was writing autographs, and he wrote the note, and they caught the note on his hand, and it said the kid's name. He said, "What's your name, son?" And they said his name, and he wrote the kid's name down, and he wrote the player. And then literally they had the kid, the guy posted it on social media, and he was like,
That's awesome.
Hey, hey Jamie, this is player whoever." And it was like, dude, the coach remember that. Like those are the little moments that make a huge difference. That kid's a fan
Totally.
for life, and every player has that opportunity to do that. And the reason why I love Manny Machado, like he takes those moments and never lets what the outside media wants to say about him distract from what he is. He's a kid playing a game. He's still that guy playing that game. You watch him every day. He's playing the game. He's blowing bubbles. He's doing it his way and not letting anybody. He's unapologetic about being himself. But if you actually watch him before a game, he takes the time to go over and see those kids. But there's no cameras on. He just does it, and it's all genuine. It's all real. And he's just always he was him from day one, genuine from day one, and I respect the hell out of it.
So now I know what we're gonna end with. Go Padres! Let's go, baby.
Well, real
Go.
quick, if listeners want to learn more about what you're doing or connect with Jesse Smith, where do you want to direct them?
Okay, so on the last, I wrote this children's book about a kid
yeah,
playing
we forgot
water
to talk
polo.
about it.
And on the last page, it has my contact information. You gotta
Yes.
buy the book to find
There it
out
is.
where to
Buy
find
the
me.
book.
Wally, the water polo walrus, not virus.
It was written during the COVID pandemic
They-
because
they're
my
tied
neighbor
together
is a
well.
collegiate swimmer and she didn't know what
Wow.
water polo was. And they moved in, the Navy family, I have a bunch of kids. So we started telling the story, talking about it. My kids helped me write it. That's awesome. So, and then my niece, who's actually their family are pretty good illustrators and artists. She designed it. She's at
That's awesome.
Rhode Island Design School, so she's legit.
So can they find that at ghostsmithnow.com?
Oh baby, they can find it at ghostsmithnow.com.
Good plug. Good plug.
Thank you, Gabe. Yeah, that's great. Okay, yeah, sorry I took so long. Thank you very
All right,
much,
man.
everyone.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.